three pilots, most accounts now say at least 43 people on the ground were killed yesterday. Hundreds were injured, many critically. Our coverage begins with Mark Phillips on the scene.
The top American military brass in Europe toured the crash site today, still trying to figure out what happened.
Absolutely no idea what went wrong.
An examination of the tapes of the accident would seem to show the problem was timing. One of the Italian pilots arrived too soon at the point where the formation was crossing above the crowd. But the final verdict will come at the end of the investigation.
There were a lot of people crying, a lot of people running, a lot of people screaming. They were trying to get away from it.
Charles Daughtry took a dramatic snapshot of the moment of impact. There is confusion as well over the casualty figures. Hundreds of injured are being treated in 21 different hospitals. Many of the dead have not been identified because their bodies are too badly mutilated. There were an estimated 300,000 spectators at the air show and no list of who was there. The West Germans were quick to react today.
My first decision is to cancel the air show the end of September.
Despite the evidence of yesterday's carnage, U.S. Air Force officials said today that while they'll go along with the cancellation of one air show, they will run them again in the future.
It is not a stunt. It is not a circus. It is an exhibition of the capability of the machinery and the man who flies.
U.S. and West German officials stressed over and over today the distinction between low-level aerobatics and low-level tactical training. But for the United States and other NATO air forces, yesterday's accident was more than a tragedy. It was a public relations disaster. The crash has rekindled a furious debate not just over the safety of air shows, but also of low-level training flights over West Germany. Critics say the flights are harmful to the environment and dangerous. There have been several crashes. But NATO commanders say the flights are necessary to teach pilots how to avoid enemy radar.
There's a certain minimum of low-level flying which must be done to maintain readiness and capability to defend Western Europe.
The United States says it will discuss with West Germany what sort of flying to allow at future air shows, and will try to reduce the number of low-level training flights. The Italian flying team will return home tomorrow to bury its dead. The Italians have said the team will continue to fly. Mark Phillips, CBS News, Ramstein, West Germany.
The same Italian flight team thrilled American audiences during a tour 2 years ago.
It's like you're teasing death up there.
No, not at all. No, everything is precise, studied, and done many times before.
But in fact, U.S. officials forced the Italians to modify the very maneuver that proved fatal yesterday to ensure the planes would not fly over spectators. Nearly 300 air shows are conducted in the U.S. every year. They've had their fatal accidents, at least 12 in the last 5 years, but the Federal Aviation Administration says it can find no record of any involving spectator deaths going back 3 decades.
There are more people killed in accidents walking across the street in New York City than are killed in an air show.
Some say the rules covering the Air Force Thunderbirds and Navy Blue Angels, the 2 U.S. precision flight teams, are tighter than those facing their European counterparts. No aerobatics less than 1,500 feet from spectators, for instance.
There is nothing hocus-pocus, showbiz about those maneuvers. They're standard military maneuvers.
But there are still risks. 42 pilots have died since the 2 U.S. teams were formed in the years after World War II to promote goodwill and recruit pilots. During a practice in 1982, 4 Thunderbird pilots died in a single incident. Each new crash raises old questions.
We have to always measure the cost versus the benefit. And in this case, the cost in lives may be greater than the benefit we can hope to achieve.
Though many say a disaster similar to yesterday's is unlikely in this country, it is bound to have a psychological effect.
Well, I think it will tighten up the limitations and requirements on the people who participate, sure.
Late today, federal officials announced they have no plans to cancel any air shows in the U.S.
I see no reason we should discontinue it. I think it's a way of life, and it's our way of introducing the public to aviation.
In fact, it could be a bumper year for North American air shows, with crowds totaling 18 million expected. David Dow, CBS News, Los Angeles.